stand with their arms down, you see all the AC inches of the bones sticking out of the shoulders. I know, like most of the riders I know, mine's sticking out.
Mine is,
yours is. There you go. Chris, yours is.
No, I'm good actually. I've never done collarbones, touch wood.
I hit my shin on a coffee table 2 years ago and it still hasn't healed. Thanks.
That was good.
Welcome to the Recharge podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Rob.
I'm Chris.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Will.
Today we've got a special guest in the studio. Thanks for coming in, Chris. How's it going, man?
It's really good. Yeah, I've been super busy, obviously, with our whole Haibike thing. But yeah, it's great to be here today too.
What have you been up to for the last couple of years? You're a familiar face to a lot of people that have been watching e-bike content for the last like 5-6 years or so.
Yeah.
So maybe for people that don't know, like what's your history and where might they have seen you from before?
So been riding now like 25 years professionally, sort of early 2000s when I kicked off, and then obviously ridden, did lots of competitions, things like that, and then the whole e-bike thing. Sort of 2017, I think, 2018, joined EMBN. Just before that, I was riding for Cannondale just as they launched their new e-bike. So that was like the kickoff thing for me. And then EMBN for 5 years. So, yeah, not my first time on screen.
5 years with EMBN, man.
Yeah.
Like, you must have some good stories, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. It's some good times.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us. We got some pretty juicy stuff. Like just before we started press and record, you said you're basically riding just e-bikes now all the time. And, Haibike just do e-bikes, right? They don't even do pedal bikes.
Yeah, they used to do sort of normal trail bikes a few years back, but I think probably 2 or 3 years ago they just swapped completely to e-bikes. So yeah, there's not even a normal mountain bike in their lineup now, which is pretty cool.
Good business model. That they know they know where the industry's going. They've thought about this. They know what's happening. Yeah, I've thought about this the other day. You're part of the 1%. There's very few people who are e-bike presenters in the world of e-bikes, right? There's very few. You, me, Rob, Steve Jones, Will Greenfield, right here.
You still ride regular pedal bikes, though, don't you?
Yeah,
That's true.
I'm exclusive now. I've sold my regular pedal bike, so I'm in the Chris Smith club now.
The only time I ride a normal bike now is for like dirt jumping. I still ride a little bit of street and trials. Like trials is still quite a big thing for me. I try to ride that like probably once a week, like on proper trials bikes. I think it's just a good way of keeping your skills up together.
Surely you're going to go. There was that dirt jump bike, wasn't there?
Oh,
it looked horrendous. It was an electric dirt jump bike.
Weighed like 20 kilos and would be horrendous to ride.
And you get an electric trials bike. Come on, or is it just to the point where you get an emotion thing?
So what are you riding at the moment? Because Haibike, by the way, we've got some pretty juicy topics to talk about today. And one of them is, are low-powered lightweight e-bikes dead? Because DJI came out last week with a 120 Newton meter e-bike motor, which basically blows most other lightweight systems out of the water. And they had it in a 19.2 kilo bike, which is like insane. If you think just last year we were getting lightweight, low-powered bikes that were like 19 kilos. So I'm intrigued to what you're riding, because Haibike do, well, many e-bikes, but they do the Like that came out last year or a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
What bikes are you riding? You riding like everything, and what's your pick?
Pretty much all the bikes that Haibike do. Obviously, they do such a wide range of bikes as well, which is, I think, is a really cool thing.
They do like 80 or something.
So I think it's probably the biggest lineup of e-bike, and that's a good thing about that company. I think it appeals to all. You get bikes like, I think they kick off at like £2,500, like a hardtail or something, and all the way up to like the more expensive bikes. And I think it's really cool because, bike for everyone. But for me, I think like a basic like 160, like the All Mountain, is like probably my go-to bike because it can do literally everything. But of course, you've got like the Like and the big travel enduros and the Hive and things like that as well. So yeah, it's just a good spread of bikes.
Dude, that big travel enduro is an absolute baller bike. It's like,
you loved it, didn't you? You had it. You had quite a few times of it on the studio with the dual crown forks, wasn't it?
That's this one, right?
That's it. The enduro. That's they brought out a newer colorway, but I think that looks sick. Like dual crown on an e-bike, I think just makes it look. It just suits an e-bike, doesn't it? No, don't you dare.
Come on, Will. Come on.
Dual crown on an e-bike is amazing. There you go. So I just think, but 180, I think, like, it's a mullet. There was so much about that bike that I mean, I love long travel e-bikes. I've been harping on about them so much. But so you would pick like a 160 travel?
I think so. If I had one bike to choose out of my whole lineup of high bikes, which I think it would be that all mountain. As I say, I can go trail riding, I can go bike park, I can do whatever on that bike. It's just so universal, really. And there's no reason to be riding like a short travel e-bike.
Yes, man. Yeah, can we get one?
Can we say?
Not that one. Oh, there's no reason to be riding a short travel e-bike.
No, there is.
If you put the clock against that 180 bike up against a 120, 130 mil travel bike with the same motor, same person, there'd be no difference in the time.
Really?
I don't think so, no.
Yeah, see?
Slightly.
So, okay, maybe 130, 120, that's too short for
if
even
you're
me.
racing, then maybe point something of a second, but...
So if you were in like a gnarly enduro, like Scotland, you mentioned you did a, I don't know, Fort William.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be picking a 120 short travel e-bike.
No way. No way. I'd be picking my fillings up all the way down. No way. Like that 100, 180 is ideal for that sort of stuff. Yeah, for sure.
You've got to put it in the right circumstance. But arguably,
everywhere.
I mean, where's the nearest mountain to here?
Sorry.
Swinley Forest.
Sorry. Have you seen what Chris does on... Chris is doing the pro line at Wind Hill doing suies on it. You wouldn't want to be doing that on a...
What's the shortest travel bike you've done, Suey's, at Wind Hill on Proline?
I have ridden, believe that or not, on a carbon hardtail back in the day.
Can we get an air horn? Wah.
But was it sketchy though?
It was sketchy. And the thing is, like, you can do all that stuff on a short travel bike, but if something goes wrong, you overjump something or you come up short, that's when the issue lies. Like, you've got that bit of a safety blanket with like a big 180 bike. Like, I can do all that stuff like on my, like the for instance, but if you land flat on like a 20-foot drop, you're going to know about it.
I've seen some of those like videos from the bike park. What bike park do you ride at a lot?
So Wind Hill is like my local, build all that stuff. It's like 10 minutes from my door.
That's so good. I saw a video you did with Ben on the Enduro 8 and some mate, you can
pull some shapes.
Yeah.
You can pull some shapes.
It's an odd place. Like, I was filming last week, Tom Cardy come down, we were filming some stuff, and like he was like, this is so weird, this place, you're like so comfortable, but this stuff is so like huge and like big consequence. But because I ride it, I like to ride there like a couple of times a week, so I'm always like in tune with that, and it keeps you on your toes when you do go to that bigger stuff.
I don't know. Every time I've ridden that boner log, I've landed at the bottom to flat. It's been a bit horrible. There's like a big steep boner log that goes up, and then you just drop off it, and it's judging the speed because it goes back up is the issue.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's either like, do I crank in hard? And they've changed it a couple times, haven't they?
Yeah. It changes all the time as well. Like the different conditions. Sometimes it's riding fast, and sometimes winter it's obviously slower, and it's just trying to get in tune with it sometimes. And it does catch me out now and again.
It was hard being your predecessor, coming after you at EMBN, because I was like, this guy's a shredder. I can't do this. Give me a little gap jump, it'll be all right. Not like massive hips on the pro line.
I think you just need to be doing it all the time. Like, I even noticed, like, if I have like a holiday with the kids and the family are going away for a week and I haven't touched a bike for a week, like I'm itching to go again, but you do feel like out of tune slightly.
Yeah.
And I'm no spring chicken. I'm like 43 this year, so it's like it does take your toll on your body as well. Obviously
you've got another 20 years, man. I've seen Holmes Way ripping it as well.
Yeah, I know, but it's just like you got to be up to speed, but there's also that risk that is behind the scenes. Like if you eat crap on some of those jumps, you're gonna hurt.
Yeah. And we don't heal as quick, do we, when we're in our 40s?
And you don't want to take those sort of slams.
You won't know this.
You don't want to take those sort of slams, and it will. It's not when it will happen.
That's the point. It's not. It's not if. It's when. Yeah, it's always the case.
100%. Yeah, and it will happen.
Well, fair play, man. I've seen the jumps that you do, and you get those bikes sideways, and you ride in big, heavier e-bikes. And fair play, man. The way that you ride those is so inspirational to watch.
Yeah, it's cool. It's like I kind of jumped on the e-bike thing quite early. As I say, I rode for Cannondale in like 2017, 18 is just when they launched the Matera, and sort of previous to that, I was just riding normal trail bikes, jump bikes, etc. And Clive Gosling, like the guy from Cannondale, was like, "Yeah, we're launching these e-bikes. Are you interested in riding one next year?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like I was sort of always a little bit, not sort of blowing my own trumpet, but like ahead of like I'd be doing like dirt jump tricks on a downhill bike before that was cool, and just sort of getting ahead. And I thought e-bikes, that's the next thing. So I got on one, and I was like, yeah, this is cool, like riding it around. But like I started trying to hit jumps, and it was in the winter and it was just like the ground was really soft, and that Matera back in the day was a heavy bike, like, and I was just like, shit, like what have I signed myself up to do this?
Geometry on e-bikes back in the day
it was
wasn't
just
quite dialed.
It weighed so much, it rolled so slow, but then you got in tune with it and you actually learn. It was almost like relearning how to ride, almost like it was cool. But riding e-bikes is definitely it's different from mountain bikes. Like if you've tuned yourself in on like mountain bikes for 15 years and then you jump on an e-bike, it's a different way you sort of weight the bike and how you ride it and how you attack stuff, which is it's cool, and it just opens up so many, many more doors, sort of thing.
I asked this question because it's interesting to gauge. We're talking about lightweights, so you've obviously had a fair bit of time on the like, and you sound like you prefer full powered, which is it's the way to go, as everyone knows. But with
controversial.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's the thing, is we need a difference of opinion. But with the like, do you find that it's not relearning again? Do you find you tune in more to your e-bike riding, or do you tune in more to that classic trail bike feel?
The thing with the like all these SL bikes, like I'm not just saying it, but like the like, I feel is a true 50-50 between mountain bike and e-bike. Like there's some like the early SL bikes, like they were too close to mountain bikes. Like if you're a mountain biker and you come to e-bikes, then that mid-powered bike is cool. But if you've come from e-bike and full powered and taken a step back, you're like,
feel too lightweight, don't they?
You're like, why have I done this?
I think like we're now at this point where I'm going to say, I think the low-powered e-bikes are numbered. The days are numbered, man. Like, if you go back in history and look over the past few years, Specialized came in with an absolutely amazing product because they basically created a new category. They bought out the original Levo SL, and it was like a 17 or 18 kilo super light bike that rode and looked like a regular pedal bike, but it only had 35 Newton meters of torque. And do you remember like getting on it for the first time and riding it and thinking how different it felt, both in power and in ride?
Yeah, I found it felt like I wanted more. That was the main thing. No, I think the thing with that bike is when it was launched, it was the silhouette was so radically different to everything else, and being Specialized, they were innovators in terms of internalizing everything, all the rest of it. So it's cool, but 35 Newton meters was like a breeze. It was next to nothing.
May as well have had a good curry the night before. But I don't know.
I remember you saying that on your EMBM video.
But yeah, as you say, like it was groundbreaking at the time, and you pick it up and the weight, and even like the traveling. I think it was the first bike we could actually travel with, because I think the range, you could take the internal battery out and just run it on the range extender, which was really cool for travel, and just like maneuvering it around on the trail. It was super playful. It was just an issue when it come to coming back up the hill, which was
I disagree.
Really?
Because I came, you would have all come from full power bikes before, right? And I come from never riding a full power e-bike before. So getting on that, I was like, this is loads of power. Like this is all I need, basically. So it's funny how everyone sees it in a different way, right? You always have.
Definitely. And I think like the weight, again, I think you're totally right. Coming from an e-bike to that is just, from a full power bike is definitely different. And the weight of the rider is definitely a huge thing as well. I think like it will, influence how it rides.
But you're not chosen that bike because it's got low Newton meters. It happens to have low Newton meters or low torque because it's lightweight.
Yeah.
But now, what's the point?
Well, here's the thing, right? So this is the DJI motor, right? This is a prototype. So this is different to the final version, the casing and everything. But the power on this is 1,000 watts, right? And it's 120 Newton meters. And they now,
it's just insane.
And they now do bikes that are like the SL. If we got the Amflow, we got a picture of the Amflow.
I can get it.
And it basically looks like the SL, the Levo SL, or Bayer Rise, or that kind of lightweight style e-bike with 160 160 fork, 150 rear, a 600 watt battery, and this motor, and it's 19.2 kilos. So it's like not too dissimilar to that Levo SL that came out that was 35 Newton meters. So now the question is, like, are these lower powered e-bikes dead? Like, what is the point in getting something that's 35? Well, they're gone anyway, aren't they? Or 50 Newton meters like the TQ. Where's the baseline? Like, is everybody now sold on just you can have your cake and eat it? You can get a lightweight bike, but still have all the power.
Will there be some sort of niche where it's like now lightweight isn't considered sub 20, it's sub 17 or something, or sub 18? It's getting more and more niche where you would have lightweight motors because they with the advances in this technology, then there'll be advances in the lightweight to make them smaller. So they're going to be really niche in terms of like you getting low motor. It's going to be even smaller and even lighter. But why?
Yeah, exactly.
What's the point?
Why? Like what is the lowest Newton meter that you would consider riding or owning now?
Personally, I think for the type of riding I do and my weight and like where I ride and the type of terrain I wouldn't. I think like the Fazua Ride 60 is probably baseline.
Yeah.
Like totally usable system, but I think if you start creeping down, I think 50, like the 50 Newton meter would be, again, it depends on so many factors, doesn't it? Like your fitness and weight and what you expect from the bike, the type of riding you're doing, and whether you want to go for cross-country rides or you want to just session downhill runs, whether hills like this or whether you're just riding around on canal paths and want to do 50 miles and get a good workout. It's so many different variables to it. But I think, as I say, for what I do, 50, 60 Newton meters is baseline.
Yeah. Have you ridden the TQ motor by any chance?
I haven't, no.
No, again, because like the Fazua Ride 50, Ride 60 versus the TQ, which, the Ride 50 and the TQ are technically the same Newton meters and torque, but the TQ is a completely different feel. Like, I agree with you. The Ride 60 is pretty punchy for a small motor. Like the battery size is smaller and you've got that kind of over boost mode, the overrun mode. So you've got the ability to do more, but it's a bigger unit, whatever. Then you got the TQ. And it's 50 Newton meters, but it really is like, I think the big push on that is like, oh, it's so silent and it's so quiet and it's so, lightweight and this and that, but it doesn't give you the same punchiness by any means as the Fazua Ride 60.
Yeah. It feels really, you have to work really hard now but a couple of years ago that was good because compared to the Levo SL that was 35, it felt a little bit more powerful, not massively more powerful, but it felt more powerful. But and the reason I'm bringing up this topic, right, is because I just had a test on the new Decoy SN, right?
Supernatural, baby.
Supernatural, which we rode in Leogang and Solbach down loads of the bike part stuff, the techie enduro stuff, and it's a 170 fork, 160 rear coil mullet, really good geometry, really decent build. But it has the Fazua Ride 60. And I just wonder if the timing of the release of that, because Eurobike was a couple of weeks ago, and the DJI motor came out with all of that torque and all of that power, and they put it in a bike that was 19 kilos. YT released this bike that's 21 kilos with a 60 Newton meter motor, and I just saw all the comments of people like, why has it got this 60 Newton meter motor? I want the DJI. I know I can have it in a lightweight bike. What's going on?
It's so bad. If they'd released a week before Eurobike, it wouldn't have gotten the shtick it has, should we say. And you're right. Yeah. Like timing is one thing, and the bike is cool. Like the bike, you've ridden it, and it's like a good enduro bike, and that's what it's aimed at. And I guess the big push for this was they were saying, it is the best enduro bike we've made, regardless of whether it has a motor or not. But you can only lean so heavily into that when you're talking to e-bike customers who go, I only want a Bosch. I only want this. I only want that power. So the Fazua Ride 60 is a good system, but now you're going to have to, what's the point?
Yeah. And the thing is, like, all the manufacturers obviously only have the pick of what's available. There's so much stuff like being worked on, probably by Shimano and Yamaha now that, that it's going to be big steps forward, but you don't know about it.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's like it's so difficult as a buyer of e-bikes to know where to put your 5, 6, 10,000 pounds, maybe sometimes, because it is changing so quickly that it's actually like even covering it, it's like hard to keep up with it. And now brands are releasing bikes that they're almost, I don't want to say outdated, but there's new stuff that people want, even just on the release day that bike's come out.
Crazy. TQ, when was it released? It's 2 years ago.
Was it?
I think it's pretty much just over 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Fuel EXE, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Last year was Pinion.
Yeah.
Pinion MGU. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's massive. Sorry, my voice went there. That's huge.
Did you just put that filter on?
I did. Voice filter.
That's huge. And now ZF and DJI, these motors are like, how can you keep up? And we had Troyden from Crestline on the podcast last week, and for a small brand like Crestline, you can't keep making molds for all these different motors. And like, it's a year now with technology growing exponentially. It's going to be like 6 months. You can't keep up with that pace.
I think they just need to do what's been talked about so much is just like a IS mount, international standard motor mount. I know you guys have talked about all this stuff before, but that's the way forward, and you could, how good would it be to walk into a bike shop and say, you want a Shimano motor, you want a Yamaha motor, and just take your choice? That'd be the dream.
I think that is what everybody, if a brand bought a bike out and said, look, we've gone with this, I don't know, DJI motor system or whatever it is, but there's an upgrade path. So DJI or Shimano have committed that for the next 5-6 years, they're going to use the same bolt pattern. You are going to be able to upgrade to the next version of this motor and the battery when it comes out in whatever time, like you can a fork or a drivetrain. I would be way more inclined to buy that specific brand that's committed. But right now, you buy a brand or a bike and you're investing a lot of money in it, and you're worried that in 3 months' time or 6 months' time, it's out of date, and you don't want to be like, I don't know, it just feels a bit.
What's stopping them from doing that? Is it because they're going to make less money if everything's interchangeable?
I don't think it's that. I think I think that the motor brands won't. I don't think we'll ever get to a point without the EU forcing it. I don't think they're going to come together and agree on some kind of standard, because there's so many complexities. Like, look at the ZF motor. So the ZF motor doesn't bolt in; it has a cradle,
right?
So it kind of gets held in the bottom of the bike with like a cradle, and it's like a cylindrical shape, a bit like the TQ, but there's no bolts on it at all. So.
There it is, it's just there on the screen. It looks very, very similar to the TQ.
But arguably, like, you can't come up with that kind of innovation if there's a rule that says a bolt pattern has to exist and has to be the same. Like, they wouldn't have been able to design that motor. But what would be cool is, like, the bike that was in, the Raymond, if you bought that Raymond and there was some kind of promise note that you'd be able to get the new version of the ZF, that motor that comes out in 2 or 3 years. I don't know what the answer is, but there needs to be something.
Definitely, for sure.
The Recharged podcast is sponsored by The Electric Bike Shop, the e-bike specialists. They've been selling e-bikes since 2017 from their first store in Bristol. And since then, they've rapidly grown from that single shop to now 10 stores across the UK, with more planned for 2024. The Electric Bike Shop supply a host of major e-bike brands, plus a ton of parts and accessories in stock. The Electric Bike Shop are highly reviewed by real customers, and they've achieved an excellent status on Trustpilot.com with hundreds of reviews. They offer free UK delivery, highly competitive pricing with price matching. They take part in the Cycle to Work scheme, and they carry literally thousands of e-bikes in stock for quick delivery. They also offer test rides where you can get hands-on with the bike so you can try different sizes. There's really nothing like getting on a bike and trying out the size for real to make sure you get the right bike size for you. So check them out at theelectricbikeshop.co.uk, where you can see the range, or you can even book a test ride direct from their website at one of their 10 nationwide stores. Thanks again to the Electric Bike Shop for sponsoring the Recharged podcast.
The thing is with like you're saying about the bolt patterns is like Bosch R&D department aren't speaking to Shimano R&D department being like, guys, this is our bolt space, and they're not going to do that. And again, how they design the motor from the ground up with the shape of it, they can only put bolts on in certain places in theory. Like if you look at the casing of that motor, there's not that much space around the axle or whatever it is. So there's limitations, and then you've got a bike design the frame around the shape of that motor. So, everyone wants this integrated, super seamless look. If you've got a round thing, a long thing, whatever it might be, all the different shapes of the motors, it's never going to fit in. And no brand is going to want to commit to that without knowing that it's going to be part of the integrated look of the bike. I think, personally. I think that plays probably a bigger part of it.
Yeah, I mean, this motor has already changed. This is a prototype, as I already mentioned, and this has actually got 3 bolts either side. and they're now on the 10th iteration of this motor, which was the production motor, and it's actually changed to 2 through axles on the motor itself.
Next year it's going to be 1 bolt. It's getting less and less and less.
Just the battery cable, like it's
just loose. It's just floating.
But I don't know. I just think like this has had so much hype, this DJI motor. I worry for all the bike brands that are bringing out anything that's like lightweight that's not able to compete with it, because now people know you can have your cake and eat it. You can have a lower weight.
Yeah.
Look at the stats, man. It's crazy.
To fight Whitey's corner and talk about the SN and what Chris had said beforehand, is the Fazur Ride 60 is still punchy enough. I think so. It's still punchy enough.
Yeah.
I think the battery size could do with some expansion if they can get a bigger battery and that's lightweight. Cool. The Ride 60 is still current to some degree.
Put a screen on it, man. Why did they not put a screen in it?
Yeah, need a big touch screen on there. That's the way to go.
I'd be way more likely to buy it if it had a similar screen to the DJI.
Had like the tech.
Yeah.
The DJI is not
There's
just
no
the
tech in
motor,
it.
is it? It's like the touch screen. It's like a little phone, isn't it? Little kind of touch screen, and all the other tech that's in it, like the wireless controller and all that kind of
Just
stuff.
Feels like you're getting way more for your money with that stuff.
Yeah, you've got like the security thing. Like the Ride 60 in terms of extra features is pretty lacking. It's not like, Bosch, you can at least get the GPS dongle, can't you, where you can track it, all the rest of it. That's a good point of it, but I think let's step in our time machine and go back to 2 weeks ago before the DJI got released. There's a load of other brands that have already done this. We've got the Orbea Rise.
Yeah,
That's the most recent one.
So when you say done this, we mean like they're
full power, lightweight.
Yeah.
So they've not scrimped on Newton meters from the motor. They've probably done it through battery size, I think is probably the more likely thing. And that's okay. That's a means of doing it. Obviously, it's not quite the high density cells that the DJI has, but the Orbea Rise.
Well, the Orbea actually is very high density. So the Orbea Rise is a very good example. It's a lovely looking bike, that Rise. So that is using the Shimano 85 Newton meter motor, but it's got you can get up to a 600 battery, and it's still like 19, 20 kgs.
Yeah.
So I think all of this has helped shape people's opinion on the cell of a 50 Newton meter motor at the same weight that you can get the full power bikes is quite difficult. Like if you were buying, right, Adam or Will or Chris, well, you're going to buy a Haibike. Would you, given the choice, what would you need to do what would sway you to get like a 50 Newton meter, knowing that you can get an 85 Newton meter Rise, for example?
Be paying me a lot of money.
Hold on, you worked for YT before, so you might maybe swing a discount to get one.
Yeah, I could do, but
rides really well.
Really recuperating rides really well. Voice went high there.
But how much does the motor like if you're in the market, Adam, aren't you? You're thinking about buying a bike. Well, you are going to buy an e-bike. Mm-hmm. Like, where does the motor system rank on like how important it is in terms of the bike purchase?
One of the most important parts of it.
Right.
Probably, I've said that Bosch was kind of where I was going. I was going full power. This
reliability is like a huge thing as well, isn't it?
That's
I think
massive.
that's probably the thing that I would be looking at most. I think reliability and like after service as well.
Because these are untested, really. Like we were talking about the other day. If DJI confirmed about the service network,
right? So
we said, because a lot of the questions were, how do you get it serviced? And they said you use the existing DJI service network. And we kind of joked, like, do you go into Curry's? Like, imagine wheeling your bike into Curry's, and they're like, what is that?
Yeah.
I'm just bringing it in for service. No, we do TVs. I'm speculating. I don't know how it is, but the service network is important.
Oh, yeah. And I don't know. Obviously, this is being fairly untested at the minute, hasn't it? I don't know. Maybe it's super exciting to have those in the game, but until it's been plugged through mud for a year in the UK, it'd be interesting to see how it holds out as well, isn't it?
Can it survive a British winter?
And that's a big point, because unfortunately the first generation of Brose motors on the Specialized did not survive UK winters. So.
Didn't survive at all, did they?
No,
regardless of winter.
There was a few little funny things to that. No, they struggled with water ingress, but again, it was a Brose being a car company making power steering units. That's where it came from. They just didn't realise how hard a British winter could be, which is pretty horrible.
I thought it was just people riding them in turbo up mountains in like gear 12 or something.
Probably.
Just snap the belt.
Wouldn't be surprised. But the thing is, tell me a bike shop that doesn't sell Shimano parts. Zero. I don't think I've ever been into a bike shop globally that doesn't sell Shimano. And you know that Shimano Motors will always have that full dealer network of every single bike shop everywhere, right? Bosch, it's now become like normality for in a bike shop to be Bosch trained. You know, the majority of these companies have set themselves up really well in terms of that aftermarket support. It's a hard one for DJI. You're not going to go into a camera shop, this and that. And even then, it's hard to say exactly what they can do.
Yeah.
They don't have a workshop.
Out, are they?
Yeah, they don't have a workshop to take the motor out even. So they maybe, if they get the whole bike, then they just have to, a camera shop might have to pack it and send it, you know? It's a big fear. It's a big fear.
Yeah.
It's odd. It is odd. Like DJI, when I first saw the press release, I was like, what, the drone? You know, the drone company are releasing an EVA. Like, why are they? And it is hard to gain traction, isn't it? From coming from a company that hasn't got any background in, obviously electronics, but like motor side of things. They're not. It surprised everybody. And we have seen motors come to the market before that have literally blown up everything and like, this is the best thing. But then they have dropped off, you know.
Go on, give us some examples.
Come on,
I'll give you an example. Do you remember the Haibike Fly-On?
I do.
That was like so fun and fast to ride. I rode it in... I went to the Mega Avalanche and Piers from Haibike bought the Fly-On, the red and black one. It looked amazing. So it looked...
Can you just explain to everyone what the Fly-On was and why it made it so special?
This bike.
The Fly-On used TQ.
TQ.
Yeah, and this was 2019 though.
What are you laughing at? So that bike was a monster, right? So it had 120... Yeah, it was a TQ motor.
TQ,
120 newton
Newton
meters.
still, yeah.
It felt like... I don't know, like 5,000 watts or something. The DJI statistically is 120, but it felt way more powerful in my experience. I was able
The
to...
size of it is a lot bigger, so I think they can fit
It was
more
massive.
in. But I don't care. Not too worried about
But that
size.
is a good
No, it's
point.
not,
Like, no, that is the motor. That's the Fly-On.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
just a different bike. So
It's basically like this, but like twice the size of that, wasn't it? As I remember, it was huge.
and it caned the battery. If you used it in 120, which I did because it was fun, I could get up to the top of the outdoors. You know, the road they cycle up in the. Maybe they do it in the Tour de France. I don't know.
Depends on the stage, but yeah.
But so I was able to cycle up that, and I had to wait about 15 minutes. My mates were on Levos,
Really?
and they were in turbo mode. And
it's crazy, isn't it? But again, I think that's one of the motors and one of the bikes that is a definite like standout. As you know, is a definite memory from e-bike progression for sure.
But that was 2019, and this that's very similar to the ZF in terms of what its application is, just the size they've reduced down. So, and that was TQ's first motor they brought on the market.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people remember it, I don't think. It's kind of one of those ones. What happened? Because I didn't think it ever went to market, but it did.
It did, yeah. It did come to market, but it was behind on the production date, as I remember. And a lot of people got, they paid this money up front and,
Yeah.
it was a long wait for it. And it did all turn up. And there is bikes to this day. There's a few like Haibike Facebook pages, and there's people with these motors that still rate them to this day. So
Is there a support network for those motors? Like,
I'd assume so, because it's a TQ product, isn't it, through Haibike?
Yeah, but do they still support those? Because I knew about it, but it was such a and it's gone.
it has been used on some other bikes. There was one of the other brands.
Oh, it's like it was a German brand. M Sport Technic, was it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they
M1
use that same motor. So it has been used in a few different applications too. But again, as I mentioned, it was exciting a few years back, and it's helped the progression of motor tech for sure.
It's funny because it did disappear, and I think they had some supply issues with the batteries as well.
Yeah.
And I think they announced it, and you couldn't buy it for like 6 months or so. It was quite a long time after they announced it you could get it. And the hype kind of starts dying down, doesn't it? After something's announced and you can't actually get it. But they were on the market, and they were really cool. It's funny because TQ didn't do anything anywhere like that power since then. So knowing that TQ can do 120 Newton meter crazy power motors and also really compact small ones, wonder if they'll do something in between.
They've got to. If I was honest, I was looking at like the Mondraker Neat, and I was like, why? It's light, it's like 17 whatever, but I was like, what's the point in it now? And it's like, this is not, TQ came up with something revolutionary, and I feel like we're giving them shtick, but they are the one that I worry about the most if they don't do anything that's comparable to the power. Specialized as well, but we know that they've upped their 35 newton meters since the SLs first came out. So it's kind of like TQ are the only ones now that are in that 50.
They have
right?
caused, I think, a lot of hype over the years with the release of that fly-on motor, and then this motor, when that came to market, that was another benchmark kind of motor, wasn't it? And maybe they have got something coming.
Well,
Pure speculation.
confirmed by Chris Smith. Only joking.
So, yeah, but then, so are they dead?
What these low?
No,
power?
lightweight ones. Because
Well-
again, like, are we going to see other brands come in? Are we going to see Sony, or are we going to see only brands coming in that are able to do these things? I think there's not much need for them.
I think it's a very hard sell now. Anything under 60, I think the Fazua Ride 60, even seeing some of the comments on the YT video, it's still like people now want or know they can get a more powerful motor. So I think the sell for these lighter weights is now like, if you can get a lightweight but really powerful e-bike, then
Why not?
why not? So it's going to be really, really difficult. So I wonder if the weight now on bikes, I think, is down to the build and the battery. And I've actually got a DJI battery here.
Here's one we made earlier.
So this is 600 watt hours,
That's crazy.
and it's like, you know, it's not much bigger than the whatever comes in the TQ, like the 360,
Yeah.
and it weighs 2.7 something kilos. So the batteries now are one of the biggest factors in the weight of the bikes, and then the builds, because the difference in weight between a low power or mid power, whatever we want to call them, and a full power is like 600 grams. It's like a water bottle.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. Why wouldn't you have just that extra water bottle of weight, but have access to all of that power? And then you tune your weight of the bike with like the battery size and the build spec of the bike.
Well, do you remember the Lapierre with that snake battery? That was Fazua,
Yes.
wasn't it? So
Was it Fazua?
I think it was Fazua,
Or maybe Yamaha?
I can't remember. I think it was Fazua, but it had like segments of the battery that you could just connect. So if you wanted to go out for, just going out for an hour and you wanted a lightweight bike, I think you could you break the battery down? or not?
You might have been able to.
Stork Bikes did something similar. They've done like a lightweight with these modular batteries.
Really?
It was like
Yeah.
240 watt hour per battery pack. And
Yeah.
you could put them 3 in sequence, I think it was.
See, I think that's quite exciting. I think that's where the next progression will hopefully be is in battery tech, because you mentioned that is a massive, I could take the battery out of any of my bikes and they're so light without the battery, even just with the motors in still. But if you take that out of the mix, or wasn't there talk of like these plug-in like
modular batteries.
Yeah, like memory card batteries almost. I heard some hype about ages ago, but
All
never
these
came.
industry secrets are coming out now. I didn't know about this. No,
I don't know if it ever.
but I'm gonna challenge that and say I like weight on an e-bike.
Yeah.
Like, there's part of me being like, yeah, we've reduced all the weight down. But for example, if I had that Amfo bike, I might find it's a bit too light, so I'm going to put really heavy tires on,
Yeah.
or I'm gonna overspec it to get that weight, because it really does aid in riding for a lot of styles of riding.
It's a good point. Like, if you're doing one of those insane jumps, like a massive gap that you do at Windhill,
Yeah.
what, for stability wise and the comfort and the feeling, I know you mentioned like the bigger bikes give you more comfort if you get it wrong, but
Yeah.
like, do they feel better to jump and stuff?
Yeah, for sure. I think like for what I do, this type of riding, bike park stuff, or even like downhill, I think the actual weight is a good thing. Like, especially they're super stable, and even just the weight of the bike in the compression in the takeoff on a big jump is so good. Like you basically don't even have to do anything. The bike literally does it with, like a motocross bike. You can come into, like the freestyle motocross guys come in like second, third gear and just and they're over like a huge jump. It's a similar sort of thing to that. Like if you were on a lightweight like enduro bike coming in, you would struggle to get, I've seen some riders like follow me in a train. I'm like, yeah, what's the speed for it? And they train you in, and they're like, no way can I do that at that speed. So it's just like the weight of the bike definitely does help pull you through some big
We
stuff.
see motocross riders doing like fat whips and massive gaps and stuff, and people are able to move those, and they come to an e-bike and they're like so light.
Yeah.
Even a heavy e-bike, they're
Exactly.
like, this feels ridiculously light.
And you see guys, I think like Bryceland and those guys, I think they rode some of the Fest series on e-bikes, and Josh was like throwing that bike around like it was nothing, and Sam like the Hog and Hulls, and they throw some crazy shapes. It doesn't hold you back one bit. The only thing an e-bike will differ from a regular bike is when it comes to more like slope style. Like there's no way on earth no one's going to be doing a double tail whip or a triple tail whip on an e-bike. But you know, we've seen riders like Sam have done.
No, it's Christmas for X Games doing fat whips on an e-bike. Let's go.
Just like the rotational weight of an e-bike is hard. Like I have done like 360s and stuff on e-bikes, but it is an effort. But you would never like, I'd challenge some of the best to do like a 720. It's just that rotational force. And I think like flips and things like that is exactly the same on an e-bike.
Although there are some people out there that are like, if you look at people like, I'm trying to think of an example, but like Chris Kyle, I don't know his exact height, but he's not a big guy.
No.
The weight of the bike will affect him way more than it will affect someone that's like 6'2" and like 100 kg or something.
Yeah.
I think that's it's a fair point.
You can definitely. Sorry.
No, it's all right. You sometimes say you struggle with the upper body part of riding heavy e-bikes.
It's bad.
Yeah,
it's odd, isn't it? Because like when I rode an e-bike on some like the long downhill stuff, I'd get more arm pump on a standard bike than I would on the e-bike. But it's just the way you learn to ride, I think.
I think that's something to do with the suspension, though, because I think your suspension is more active on a slightly heavier bike. I think you get that more like small bump sensitivity. I think the bike works better with more weight, personally.
I think I shared this in another podcast we did, but I made a super light, the TQ one. When it came with the Trek Fuel EXE, it was like 17 kgs or whatever, 18. It was like a 12,000 pound bike, so it was super light. But I built it up, and everything I did that made it heavier made it better, I felt.
Really?
Like I put heavier tyres on, like bigger fork, heavier fork. It came with a RockShox 35. I put an Öhlins on it, and it was just better everywhere, I felt. But like going back to what we were talking, it's a nice looking bike, isn't it? I love the lines
Trek,
on that.
Yeah. And that was such a revolutionary bike when it came out.
Yeah.
But it didn't come out long ago.
When did that come out?
I'm
2
like,
years ago.
Will asked before the podcast, like, are they still selling that?
I reckon 3 years.
That's mad.
I think it's
got to be
honestly,
less. It's
I went
like
to
2
the
years.
release. I think it's 2 years.
Because it was the launch of the TQ motor, and that's why I'm pretty sure it was 2 years ago. I think it was just at the end of lockdowns, 2022.
But going back to the bike weight and stuff, Jasper Penson's riding that Crestline with a 180.
Oh,
It's
mate,
like,
he's filled the tyres with helium, I'm sure. It's just flying.
have you seen that, dude? Like,
I know Jasper really well,
Do you?
actually. Yeah, he's like a good friend. And I actually, funny enough, got him. Well, I was working at Windhill Bike Park at the time, and this kid used to turn up, and he used to drive a Volkswagen Golf, and he had 4 bikes on his roof, roped through the windows onto the roof, right, with pedals all scuffing the roof. I think they might have even got a hole through the roof. He was just like this random kid who come from motocross, and I used to see him ride, and I was like, who is that guy? He has so much style on a bike. And obviously I've seen a lot of people ride, and this guy was just literally like mind-blowing straight away. I was like, who is that? And I got talking to him, and he told me he used to race motocross, all this stuff. And then I helped him get on Cannondale at the time, so he got a deal with Cannondale, so he was like a teammate with me. And we started doing a few projects and that. And then he went a bit off the radar, as you know, some people do when they start going out and girls drinking, blah, blah, blah. It sort of went off the radar a bit. But then obviously he come back with a vengeance with that latest Crestline.
gone viral, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's just, it's mad, like how the views and stuff. Like I think he's got over 1 million views just on that little clips on his latest stuff. And yeah, he's so stylish. Like, last time I went riding with him, he hadn't touched a bike for a year, he said, and he got on it, and he was again like, you'd be stoked if that was you riding, like first ride.
1% of his skill.
It is insane. Like I've never seen someone like, we could build a gap, like a big transfer or something, and for me, I would probably come in, probably over jump it, big pencil, ski Sunday through the air just to test it to make sure. But Jasper would come in, guaranteed first hit, and he'd do like a big like in-down one-footed table thing, perfect. Like it's insane. Like,
natural raw talent,
natural.
Like that's full powered 180, full 29.
But he's mad strong.
Yeah, he is.
I don't know if you've seen him in person, but
No, I haven't.
Has anyone seen him in person? Because he's like the Sting, isn't
He turns up, right? No one knows what he actually looks like. I've obviously spoken to him face to face.
Have you got any pictures on your phone so we can
I
reveal
haven't
it?
been.
I haven't, but yeah, I've obviously spoken to him without helmets and stuff on. And yeah, he's just a regular guy, but he turns up. I heard he turned up at the bike park the other day. He drove in with his helmet on, and so no one and he's like
He is the Steg of mountain biking.
He's really clever. He hasn't worked on how he's sort of done his thing, but it's just all fallen into place, like that disappearance of him. And I don't know if you saw on YouTube, there was like a mini documentary about the disappearance of Jasper Pendleton.
Did you see that?
And it was just like, it's mad that someone creates that much hype. You know,
can you get him into the podcast so he can wear his helmet? And
doesn't say a word, just sits there, not saying anything.
It is, it's super odd, like how someone has made that much hype purely, pretty much from Insta as well.
And dude, it's like 10 videos, if that.
Yeah.
Like less than.
Yeah.
No, I think he's done more reels and stuff.
No, but I mean, like the videos that have got him where he's at, it took like a handful. That Crestline one was like 1 out of a year, no one's seen him, blah, blah, blah. Whoa. And every one of his videos were just like absolute bangers for such a short period of time.
Yeah.
Like it was a blip. He was on the scene for like 2 years, maybe, and then just disappeared for a year, 2 years, and then suddenly came back. It's like, doesn't need to do a lot.
No.
And he doesn't need a shorter, lighter weight bike.
I can't believe he was able to do all that stuff after taking a year off. Like we were saying, if you take a week off, you're like, even my fitness in my 40s just declined so quickly.
It was sort of insane as well, because he was messaging me. I have, as I say, I've helped him out like with deals and put him in contact with people.
I don't know
and stuff
about this.
like that.
I'm just fishy enough. No one's seen him.
Then, like even with Sam Pilgrim, like back, when did he sign with Haibike? Like 2017, I reckon, something like that. We were both like talking about these new e-bikes that were on the scene, and Sam was on NS at the time, I think, and he was like, I've been speaking to this e-bike brand. What do you think? You know, should I do it or should I just stick to normal bikes? And I was like, do it. You know, I think e-bikes are going to be the next big thing. And like both of us, I started riding for Cannondale, more probably like 80% on e-bikes. Sam had just started riding for Haibike, and it was just like we were like progressing, and like we were trying to do tricks all together, you know, and beat. Oh yeah, I did a 360 on mine today. Have you done one yet? He's like, no way. And you know, it was cool. It was exciting times.
It was a big thing. I remember when, because it was like Sam Pilgrim is going exclusively e-bikes. He's going to an exclusive e-bike company. I was like, whoa! It was really mixed opinions back then. It was like, oh, I can't believe he's doing this. This is terrible. And then other people going, oh, what's this going to mean for the world of bikes and this and that, you know.
And even like with Jasper, he was messaging me. He was like, what e-bike brand would you approach? And I was just like, I put a few out there for him, and obviously he went Crestline in the end. But it was interesting that he didn't want to ride a normal bike and he wanted to ride an e-bike.
I think that's the case now. When I'm out riding, when I first started riding e-bikes, which was like 2018, 2019, they had this stigma that they were like old dudes' bikes, but now all the say kids, like young riders, 14, 15, they all want e-bikes. Like that's if the price wasn't such a barrier, I say all of them, most of them look at the bike and go, oh, that looks so sick. I wish I had one of those. And I think like it talks to like Jasper only wanting one of those. I wonder if now the generational thing is the young riders now just want e-bikes. And I see my channel analytics, the age range has come down so much. Like when I first started, it was like 40, 50. My target audience was like 40 and 60. Like I joke about the only people that ever recognize me are like middle-aged men in the woods.
I had the same,
Yeah, right?
Have to put the glass on. Is that you, Rob?
But now it's like much younger riders want e-bikes, and I think that new market is a real kind of up-and-coming market.
I think it's really interesting you say that as well, because obviously I've got a young family as well, and like as much as I want to get the boys into mountain biking, I'm not pushing them into it. But one thing that I did was like, I can't remember the name of the brand, but basically it's a hub drive kit which bolts onto any like 20-inch wheel bike. So as soon as my middle boy was old enough to ride like a 20-inch wheel, I put him on this e-bike kit. And now like I don't want them just to be on e-bikes, because I don't know, it maybe...
Is that because you grew up learning?
Do you know what I mean? Like you sort of learn as a kid back in the day, you'd be like struggling, pushing up hills and like cranking away. But you want
your children to suffer before they get the goods.
I want them to enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? And like the whole thing of the e-bike thing, like straight in, will they not know what it's like to ride a normal pedal bike?
True.
And it's cool. Like, but it does make it so much more enjoyable for them. Like the smile on their face. Like I remember my dad just like getting so annoyed, like waiting for me to push my bike up hills or only slight gradient, moaning about it. But with the e-bike, he's just like, he's cruising up, he's ahead of me up the hills.
Yeah.
But it levels the playing field, though. I've always thought in a family respect. So when I was working for a company and they had a rental side of things, and it was really good because for families it meant that kids could put more power in and they're riding at the same speed as parents. Parents can dial it back. It levels the playing field. So where people's fitness or muscles might not be adequate at a younger age, it helps keep the ride flow consistent. It keeps everything moving. I think it's I get your point.
Yeah.
It's like you got to go through the motions to really appreciate how good an e-bike is when you get to that age. But it's a different world.
But it's a different world.
Now.
Like they've got all like those Revies, like the little electric motor, balance bikes and stuff. Like my youngest rides one of those around, and I'm like, it's so cool now. Like what it is available.
Scooters,
Yeah,
so many
it's
of,
just
electric, they look really
everything.
good.
Like it's all e-powered now.
Can
like
I tell you something that I really want to have a go on?
go on then.
Like a proper emo.
Like a Suron.
E-motor.
Just
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I know there's such a bad stigma and people are like, oh, fuck the Surons and all that stuff, but they look so much fun.
I think
If you've come from a moto background, then it makes more sense. If you're coming from a mountain bike background, everyone's like, oh, well, you just go into a cheat and there's e-bikes, you get a throttle. But if you, like my friend rides motocross and he's like, you can't ride them anywhere. But if I had a Suron, you can go green laning. You don't want to ruin mountain bike trails, but you can. It's a lot more accessible and it's gonna piss locals off a lot less because it's not as noisy.
You ride moto, right?
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on the whole e-moto and all that stuff?
I think like the bigger, like the big Stark, like the proper, more expensive motocross. Like I've ridden the Surons and stuff, and they are like they're too small. Well, I think like the newer stuff, like this was an older Suron.
Yeah.
Like I think they get sort of a bit of a bad rap for but like that, on screen.
What is
now.
that? What is that, Will?
That's a Stark.
That's a Stark,
That's the
and they're
Stark.
like,
What do you reckon
I think
to cake? What about cake?
if you look at the stats, 80 brake.
38 newton meters of
Yeah.
torque.
Wow. No, that puts
thing
the DJI to shame,
It's
doesn't
only
it?
12 grand.
No,
This works.
genuinely, like electric trials bikes and stuff are cheaper than e-mountain bikes.
But
Like
like
£5,000.
Yeah, I think it's again like if you've experienced like the full power, like if you got off a CRF 250 and jumped on that, then it's probably going to be pretty much the same. But I mean, like it's just that whole experience. I think with moto, like the noise and the smell and the feeling of that, compared to electric bike is.
Do you get like funny looks from people if you do any green laning or anything like that? Are you-
like I used to, green laning, like legit green laning on
Yeah.
proper byways and stuff, like not a problem. You will get the odd person who doesn't understand and stands in your way and stuff like that. But I do it quite legit now. I have put my hand up. I have ridden back in the day on trials bikes in woodlands and footpaths and, stuff where you're not meant to be. And it does cause issues. But I think like Sam, again, like Pilgrim and that, they ride Suron quite a bit. And he was saying like the places he gets to ride now, you could literally ride down a footpath, and as long as you were just cruising along, you're not going to get the same response as you do as like a motorbike revving away. And it definitely is. It's an advance again in off-road two-wheel stuff, isn't it?
You rode one of the. Do you remember the brand Grape that
Yeah.
disappeared? The bikes, the pedal bikes looked horrible, but they did a moto bike.
Yeah.
That was pretty.
Did you
rode
go?
that,
Did you go
didn't
out to Croatia
Yeah,
to
I was
ride?
in Croatia.
Yeah, I
it
heard
was
about
really
this.
good. Yeah, that was a really fun time. So I can't remember what the Grape was, but yeah, that was a throttle bike, but that was like big torquey motor and.
I heard that was like they overclocked or something. There was some silly one there.
Yeah,
they
was,
had.
I think it was de-restricted. It was super fast. It was basically like an electrical it was an electric motorbike.
Yeah. I mean the Suron Ultra B, I think it's called. By the way, we're not going to be doing like a Surons on this channel and stuff. But I just got curious because somebody sent it to me and they were like, "Look at this. What do you think?" And I was like, the price, it was like $6,000 or something. I was like, that's cheaper than a lot of e-bikes or mountain bikes, and you get all that kit with it. So it was interesting, and I know you rode moto. So
It's that whole motor. That's the usual comment you get on a motorbike versus e-bike thing. But if you actually look at the tech that is, say for instance, a back wheel on an e-mountain bike compared to a motorbike, like. It's basically says so much more tech, the free wheels, the materials.
what in the mountain bike?
Yeah, in the mountain bike
Yeah.
stuff. It's like mass produced on motorbike. It's just standard steel
Bit more
rim.
crude, aren't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's just mass manufacture, and it's just like little bits, even like seats. A saddle on an e-mountain bike compared to a piece of foam with a bit of plastic on a motorbike. It's all relative. I think.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And like to get bikes as light as they are, with the amount of power they are, and to ride as well as they do, there's a lot of technology that goes into having less power, ironically.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think there's definitely, that almost bids the argument for, there is still a place for like TQ motors.
Yeah.
Because there's still going to be that want for lighter weight and more refined and that side of things. And I'm talking very much from a biased perspective of I want more power. But there will be people out there who go, I really enjoy that natural feel. I just want to get more distance.
Yeah. Come feels full circle, haven't we? Right up to moto.
I'd say the pricing, again, is just like people don't realise that, like, if you want to go and buy, say, for instance, that Crestline that Jasper Penton rides, that is the exact same bike as you're going to buy out the shop, which Jasper rides. But if you want to go and ride the same motocross bike as some of the big name riders, that's a totally different bike. You know?
Oh, they're completely tuned. Everything's been changed.
It's all different parts, and it's all just relative.
We were talking with Phil Seaton from Seaton Engineering. He runs the Pollet factory racing team, and he actually, his core business before doing some of the bike stuff is he's a tuner of like bicycle, motorbikes, engine, suspension. And he was saying, look, you can, to your point completely, you can get a off-the-shelf R1 and it'll be, I don't know, 8 grand or whatever it is. I don't know the price. He said, look, when you start racing, just an Öhlins fork, like a tuned Öhlins fork or another brand, he was like, you're talking £15,000 for the fork alone. Like,
I'm in the wrong industry, damn it.
Whereas a Fox 40 is a Fox 40.
Yeah, exactly.
Essentially, it's
You
the
can
same
get,
tech.
and even changing a shim stack on a Fox 40 ain't going to cost you the world. It's not. It's moving a few washers around. It's not the end of the world. Someone who does it. And again, you know, you send your forks to Fox Service Centre or wherever it might be. To do that isn't that expensive. You know, it's a full strip down rebuild is 120 quid, for example, and then changing a shim stack isn't going to be crazy more money. So again, it shows that there's a load more room for mountain bikes to progress into as well, and hopefully not the cost. But
definitely,
I don't know. Why would you choose something lightweight?
Well, I've actually changed my mind just during this podcast, actually, because I know there's still people that like Doddy, right? So he was saying that he likes the feeling of riding.
He's wrong.
But there are many people out there that like running, right? Like triathlon. You enjoy running, right?
I do.
You don't put on shoes that make you go faster.
I do.
Well, you threw a spanner in that work.
Yeah, sorry, I bought shoes especially for that.
Well, they make you go fast, but they're not e-shoes, are they? They ain't got batteries.
They're not electric shoes, no.
No. But what I mean by that is people like feeling like the burn of like feeling like you're doing something. So that's why I still think there's always going to be a place for these lighter weight e-bike motors, because there are a lot of people that enjoy cycling for cycling and feeling like they want to come back and feel tired. You know, they've had a workout, and even though you can get one of these, still it's 650 grams. That might mean quite a lot to people that want to build a super light bike. So
is the DJI silent like the TQ?
No.
Is anything as silent as the TQ?
The TQ is the most silentest. Is that a word? No. I don't think it is.
The most
silent e-bike I've ever ridden, going up and down.
Yeah. Okay. So again, there's another thing.
Going
There's
down
no
like
rattle, no
like,
movement.
What about pinion?
No, the pinion's really noisy in gears 1 to 4. It's like,
Not going down.
That's got no whir.
Yeah, the pinion is, the pinion's quiet going down as well. But the TQ is the only one that going up, like you can't hear it, or going down, you can't hear it. It's
when
like,
the drive is engaged, there's no noise. The problem with the pinion, as soon as the drive is engaged, as soon as you're using the motor as the motor itself with power, it's making a lot of noise.
Can't hear the birds anymore. No,
it's all about the birds.
All about the birds. That is sad. But you know, again, like that's where I think maybe that TQ is still so niche but it very much appeals to the regular pedal bike market. And maybe we get down the world where there is no such thing as a regular pedal bike with no electrical parts, whether it be a drive chain or whatever. The TQ is that.
Yeah, your kids are always going to be riding an e-bike now.
It's just
sad times.
It'll change from giving them a regular pedal bike. You start them on a TQ and then they eventually work their way up to like a Bosch CX.
Maybe that's where it will go.
Yeah. Oh man, it's changing so quick. Like no doubt you come in again and like in 6 months we've got, I don't know, just a Tesla motor on the table, or like Zaya, you know, there's some of these other Chinese manufacturers that are releasing EVs. Like EV tech is changing so quick. Look at BYD.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of them, but they are massive. Like in China, they're a massive motor brand, and they're bringing out cars in the UK. And the pace of innovation is so quick, man. It's not necessarily just going to be the big players like Bosch, Shimano, Yamaha, the traditional brands. I think there's going to be all these newcomers that come into the market, and you're like, wow, where did they come from?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the whole sort of EV thing, and even like the e-scooter brands, all their tech that they can bring in as well, is exciting times for sure, isn't it?
Yeah, man. So what have you got coming up? Are you doing videos for your channel? Where can people see more stuff from you?
So it's just like content creating for Haibike, and they distribute it out for dealers and newsletters and things like that.
Nice.
Lots of stuff coming up, a few events, and press relations, and going seeing lots of people. So
I bet your life has changed quite a lot over the past few years. Obviously, we've got two ex-presenters from another channel, which I watched all the time. Is it cool working just for a brand now? It feels a bit different, I guess, going from working with lots of different brands to working with a single brand.
Yeah. So back in the day when I was riding for just you'd get a bit of a retaining payment from one sponsor, a bit from another person, and put together a package. But with what I do now, just solely riding for Haibike, is just one thing. So it's a lot simpler to do. I can fly to Germany and jump on one of their stock bikes and not worry that it hasn't got the right wheels, tires, handlebars, and I'm wearing the wrong clothes. So much more simple for me. And it's just, a different change. And I think as you get older as well and more pressures from, adult life, as it were, dad life, it's definitely the way forward.
Does your family ever tell you off for doing insane tricks and stuff and massive jumps on a bike?
My mum's probably the worst. My missus is quite. She lets me get away with stuff.
She signed up for it.
She sometimes she pushes me to do things. I'm like, well, if this goes wrong, I'm done it, And
what's your wife's name?
Vicky.
Okay, go on, Vicky, go on, go for it.
But there's this big gap jump where I broke my back and ankle on, and we sort of go there now and again, and. Now I think I could 100% do it, and I did it back in 2002, so it was a long time ago. It's just I think we measured it as it's 52 feet out and down. It's a huge gap, but it's totally on, and I just misjudged the speed for it and basically just come up short and had to jump over the handlebars, and that was 22
Don't tell me you're
years
looking
ago.
at it again.
And I have looked at it, and my missus is you really want to do that, don't you? And I'm like,
that would have been on a bike with a 66-degree
it
head
was on
angle.
A Zonic recoil back in the day. So it was a big downhill bike. He even had super monster tees, the big Wazokis and stuff. But I think that was part of the problem. But now I could 100% do it. But I'm like, why? If it goes wrong again, say for instance, even the bike fails, or your handlebar snap, or or you over jump it where you go into it with a bit too much speed. I'm like, what is it actually going to do for my career? It could potentially end my career. It could end your life. It could
do, yeah.
And you're just doing it for a few likes on Instagram, and maybe get a few. It's just sometimes
doing it for other people's pleasure now.
Yeah.
It's not necessary for yourself.
No,
it's
and
almost
I do hurt my body, my back, and sometimes I wake up. Sometimes I feel perfectly fine. I can get up and go downstairs and make a cup of tea, but some mornings I wake up and I'm like to put your socks on, you got to pull your legs up, proper old
makes
man
me
stuff.
feel even worse. You're hitting huge gaps and you struggle to get out of bed in the morning
and hold onto the handrail going down the stairs. That's when it's tough sometimes. But you got to expect it. It's 25, 30 years of doing stupid stuff.
It's good that we talk about this stuff as well, because there's so many kids now you see on Instagram just trying to do so much for clout, what you said, doing it for likes, and then you send it but when they're not ready to do it, they don't have the ability to it.
Yeah,
I see it a lot with the the Rogate quad. That they have crashes on that every week. Kids breaking both wrists and stuff. It's they're literally just doing it for clout, basically.
And they do the exact same thing at Wind Hill on the pro line. It's a big line. It's not to be messed around. And the amount of people that ride that and can't even clear the jumps on the red trail, and it's just you're just hitting it and hoping. And it is, as you say, and the thing is, when you injure yourself doing all that stuff, it actually knocks you back so far.
Yeah.
It can break bones. It can just mentally scar you for those crashes.
I was going to say I the thing with those, and we're going to get stick for this, it makes some great fail videos.
Laughing
as much as there are kids out there doing it, we need some.
Laughing at the expense of others, I see.
There's a German phrase for that, Schadenfreude. It means laughing at other people's misfortune.
A question for you then. Do you feel pressure to not prove yourself because you don't need to, because you've had so many successful rides and things you've achieved in the past. But do you feel like you still need to do stuff like that to keep your, I don't know, your social media performance up? Like,
it's awkward now. I think, like as you mentioned, I've done quite a lot of stuff over the years, so hopefully build up a big enough reputation just doing that. But there is definite pressure to perform. But at the end of the day, you got to look like mid-40s coming up. It's when do you sort of like start knocking it back, and you do have to look at your health. That's the main thing for me. Like, to progress more in what I do, you have to put your body on the line, and unless you're ready to put your body on the line, you're not going to progress. So you're kind of at that level. You're not sort of tailing down, but you're just flatlining on. You're at a certain zone, and to take that next step up the ladder, you need to crash. You need to hurt yourself.
Does it take something out of, like, because you said it affects your physical health? Does it affect your mental health? If you're looking at it going, I could hit that by, do I feel the pressure to? Should I? Shouldn't I?
And it's not even just like even just landing a drop off smooth. You imagine how many times my head has gone boom, boom, boom for 25 years.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Concussion.
Yeah,
it's a huge thing.
It does. 100%.
But it's like a build-up. There's not enough Chris Smith's been studied in the world to understand the effects of doing that for 25 years, is there?
But again, like, I mentioned Sam earlier. Like, me and him talk about, like, Sam Pilgrim. He's like 10 years younger than me, and already he's like, he gets issues, backs and ankles and shoulder, stuff like that. It does happen, and like, my worry is that these younger riders coming up, like Will mentioned, they're going to get even more knackered by the time they're 30.
Yeah.
Rather, like, I've had a good run to like mid-40s now.
Yeah.
And
do you remember Thomas Lemoyne, his most recent, most recent edit when he signed for Commensal, and he did that huge like double over the thing, and then smashed his ankles, completely straightened them, and he's in his late 20s, I think it is, and it's like the sport being pushed. Means that you're only going to be on top unless you're at the you're pushing that boundary. Tom Eister doing the 110 foot gap, that kind of thing. It's like the bar is being set so high. How do you get credibility without reaching close to that bar?
I don't know. And you look at guys like Emil Johansson, like all the slopestyle stuff, and you look at some of those pictures, and he's like so high up in the air, and you think like he's doing these crazy tricks, and if you land backwards or you miss a pedal and just put your foot under the pedal, it's going to literally snap your foot off.
Well, Tom, Haibike have had some amazing riders like Sam Pilgrim, yourself, Tom Cardy. He had quite a big off, didn't he? Where he did he do a backflip? I can't remember what it was.
But front flip over rotated. Burst his spleen.
Wow, that looked gnarly. But that's just goes to kind of go to your point around like how much do you push yourself, because you need your body to live a normal life as well, don't you? Not just biking.
And it's just like the broken bones and like arthritis and stuff like that. That's like what's probably caught me out. Is like I've broken so many bones, like literally both ankles, broke my back, elbows, arms, and shoulders, and so much stuff, like little niggly stuff. And that's the things that will catch you out. Like you think, like you mentioned, Will, those guys breaking their wrists, but at 16, it doesn't really matter. You sort of have a few weeks out and you're back to it, but like that will bite you in the ass.
But if you get a bunch of mountain bikers to stand in a line and stand with their arms down, you see all the AC inches of the bones sticking out of the shoulders. I know, like most of the riders I know, mine's sticking out.
Mine is,
yours is. There you go. Chris, yours is.
No, I'm good actually. I've never done collarbones, touch wood.
I hit my shin on a coffee table 2 years ago and it still hasn't healed. Thanks. That was good. Well, thanks for coming in, man. It's been great to chat to you and talk tech and all that stuff. And like, he's riding for Haibike, and we've been riding some of their bikes, and such cool company to kind of see progress and see what's coming out over the next couple of years. And come back in soon, man. It's been great to chat with you.
Yeah, it's been good to come in, and looking forward to seeing it go live.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers.